The war horrors of the military-industrial complex are lighting the world on fire. Yes, they certainly are. Hey everyone, Johnny here at Don't Speak News. Syria is just the latest case of U.S. meddling, and the timing could not be more suspicious indeed. Just as the ceasefire was taking hold between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon, it seemed like right after that, this whole thing started over in Syria again, where the terrorists from Turkey and Uzbekistan and Tajikistan and all these different mercenary terrorists that are coming together for this jihad in Syria, well, this has been planned for several years now, at least. They've been training in places like Ukraine and Turkey and getting ready for this thing right under the noses of the Russians, the Iranians, and the Syrians. Couldn't be more incompetence going on here. But of course, the Russians have been distracted with a big war inside of Ukraine. Anyway, we'll get into this here from Leo Holman, who actually took some of this information from a story that I did as well earlier today over on don'tspeaknews.com, where I talked about Christians are being persecuted in Syria by the jihadi terrorists once again. We'll get to that story in a second, but some of it's over here. So the Biden administration has triggered another proxy war for Donald Trump to deal with when he becomes president next month. The U.S. deep state is fighting a proxy war in Syria, which appears to be waged with the intention of further destabilizing the Middle East and stirring up another front in World War III. Indeed it is. This is worldwide Armageddon going on, guys. This is the local side of it, right next to Israel. But, there's also the worldwide element of it too, which is, over in Ukraine and other places. And then Syria itself is collapsing under the weight of another U.S.-sponsored proxy civil war, with the U.S., Israel, and Sunni jihadists on one side, and Russia, Iran, Assad, and Shiite jihadists on the other. Al-Nusra, which is comprised of Al-Qaeda and ISIS affiliates, is taking over the country with the help of Turkey, a U.S. ally and key member of the NATO military alliance. These rebels have seized the city of Aleppo and many smaller towns and villages. M. Dowling at the Independent Sentinel notes that Jake Sullivan has said Al-Qaeda is on our side in Syria. Imagine that. Jake Sullivan is Biden's national security advisor and a key enabler, along with the Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, of the anti-Russia obsessed deep state club that shares one thing in common. They all belong to the Trilateral Commission and the Council on Foreign Relations. Yeah, the New World Order people. Dowling notes that the Syria civil war has started in 2011 after an uprising against President Assad's rule. The U.S., Russia, and Israel, and Iran all have a military presence inside of Syria. That's not dangerous at all, is it? Forces opposed to Assad, along with the U.S.-backed rebels, control more than a third of the country. And now Russia and Iran have launched a counteroffensive. And yes, and the U.S. is actually bombing the Iranian resistance that's trying to fight with Assad, with A-10 Warthogs. We'll get to that in a second. So Russia is very upset with Turkey for instigating the coup against Assad, likely with the direct assistance of the CIA. The false narrative being proffered by the U.S. Mockingbird media is that a ragtag coalition of so-called noble rebels, right, has somehow organically emerged to save Syria from the dictator Assad. No, what we have here are Sunni jihadists backed by the U.S. and NATO fighting Shia jihadists backed by Russia. Yeah, that's exactly what's going on. And it's also worldwide Armageddon, like I said. As Dowling points out, all jihadists are bad guys. They are bad because as soon as they get in power, one of the first things they do is start raping the Christian women and start executing the Christian men. Indeed, they've been doing that in Syria since 2011, guys. Since 2011. And I sit and look at these arrogant American Christians sit there and tell me, oh, there's nothing going on. It can't be the tribulation yet, Johnny, because I'm not being persecuted for believing in Jesus. Oh, you will be. You will be. And it just amazes me that you think that you're the only Christians in the world that matter. Unbelievable. These are the same people that sit there and tell me, oh, it's okay for Israel to bomb all the people in Gaza because Israel warned them all to leave first. Well, where were they supposed to go? When I ask them that question, their eyes just spin because they don't have an answer. It's unbelievable. It makes me sick. Anyway, Congress funded jihadist rebels in Syria for years. The chief war whores of the military-industrial complex, Senator Lindsey Graham and John McCain, they led the way. Yes, they did. They were meeting with the jihadists over there. I mean, there's pictures of them all hanging out together. So now Graham is now turning on Trump's pick for defense secretary, Pete Hegseth, because he's afraid the Fox News host, might not be fully on board with this U.S. forever wars. Well, whatever. Dowling quotes Joe Kent, a former chief warrant officer in the U.S. Army Special Forces, saying that the U.S. is in an endless cycle of violence and the regime change war in Syria that the U.S. has pushed. The world is aflame, and the regime in Washington appears to be dousing it with gasoline in anticipation of handing the chaos over to Trump and to deal with as the 47th president. Well, he's given Trump way too much credit here in this article, like he normally does, but it's amazing that people that are so intelligent don't understand that all of this is rigged and it's all set up ahead of time. That they're just two sides of the same coin. I don't understand how they can't see that. But anyway, Dowling ends her article with this truth bomb. We need to be out of Syria. We're helping no one, certainly not Americans. This is another spear in World War III. Indeed, it is. The U.S. is also stirring the pot in the Eastern European country of Georgia. Yep, another George Soros type Orange Revolution, right? Where protesters continue to be out in the streets. The U.S. is complicit in the death of more than 500,000 Ukrainians as well. I would say we need to be out of every country in the world where there's no direct, compelling national interest for America's national security. Rein in the CIA and limit its action strictly to intelligence gathering. Well, it's all too late for that, guys, because America's part of Mystery Babylon and it's going to be destroyed in an hour. That's coming soon. That may have no doubt. That's why I say prayed up first, prepped up second, because the next step, the next day could be your step into eternity. None of us are guaranteed any time here. Make sure you're going to the right place. Make Jesus Christ your Lord and Savior today while there's still time, because it's very short. Now, moving over to South Korea, and that was going on yesterday. I didn't report on it because I thought it was probably going to amount to not much, and that's what it ended up doing. But there were massive protests and confrontations with the military officers who were trying to take over the parliament building and kick out the legislators who were voting against martial law. And according to what I've read anyway, the South Korean Constitution allegedly says that if all of the parliamentarians vote against martial law, then the president has to rescind it, and that's what he's done. He's backed off. But now he's facing impeachment and treason charges for doing so. And here's the thing. In another article I read today from the BBC, he's facing corruption charges as well. So why do you think he did this? To try and get himself out of trouble. This isn't the first time that a South Korean president has been thrown in jail for corruption. So in South Korea, martial law is officially over after President Yoon's cabinet approved his decision to back down. The heads of government departments and senior secretaries of South Korean presidential administration have resigned amid the situation with the introduction and lifting of martial law. The leading South Korean opposition party has stated that if the president does not resign, it will initiate impeachment proceedings. The opposition intends to accuse the president of South Korea of treason for declaring martial law. And then after that, I'm sure he'll be facing those corruption charges that I read about this morning. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But that was very, obviously it's very concerning when you have North Korea sitting there on supposedly on go, ready for war, right? With nuclear weapons as well. So it's something to keep our eye on for sure. Then we have this from Hal Turner as well, and I've also seen this over on Pro News in Greece. A Russian vessel fired toward a German military helicopter in the Baltic Sea. So an incident has taken place between a German army helicopter and a Russian ship. Details are sketchy at this hour, and they still are. And here's all I know. The crew of the Russian ship shot signal ammunition, believed to be like an emergency flare, at the German military helicopter, which was performing reconnaissance. In other words, it was a warning shot to back off. And so the German foreign minister, Annalena Baerbock, briefly described the incident at the beginning of a NATO meeting in Brussels. She didn't give any details. The use of signal ammunition is only common in emergency situations. Thus, the firing of such ammunition today is unusual on its face. It appears, at least initially, that the vessel involved was Russian, but not a military vessel. It was described as a tanker. But Western media coverage is now calling the vessel a Russian warship. Yeah, I've seen sensationalist headlines calling it Putin's warship. And it's just so ridiculous. Baerbock claimed that there are always ships in the Baltic Sea that are involved in circumventing sanctions for the Russian war against Ukraine. Was this some type of justification for the presence of the helicopter? That is unknown. And I'm sure that's the excuse that they may use. We'll have to wait and see. But this is the type of thing, guys. What if they would have accidentally made that German helicopter crash? What then? I'm just saying that any of these little incidents can turn into a major one just like that. So prayed up and prepped up once again. And now on to this article, which I already read some of it from here because Leo and I were using the same source. But Christians are being persecuted in Syria by jihadi terrorists again. And like the Bible says in Matthew 24:9, then they will deliver you over to be persecuted and killed, and you will be hated by all nations because of my name. And John 16:2 says, they shall put you out of the synagogues, yea, the time cometh that whosoever killeth you will think that he does God service. John 16:2 once again. And once again, it's the Christians that are getting the worst of it in Aleppo, Syria, and other areas taken over by the terrorists there. American A-10s have been providing air cover by bombing the Iranian militias that are trying to help the Assad forces right here. The U.S. launches self-defense airstrikes, that's what they're calling them, but it's really, helping out the terrorists that are trying to take over. When they used A-10s, they fly over Syria amid the escalating civil war. The U.S. carried out airstrikes on December 3rd to defend U.S. forces in eastern Syria, according to the Pentagon. The operation destroyed 3 truck-mounted rocket launchers, mortars, and an armored personnel carrier, and a T-64 tank. The strikes were intended to defend American forces at their outpost, not to intervene in the civil war in Syria, they say. Right. Where a rebel group has seized Aleppo and is attacking Syrian forces loyal to President Bashar al-Assad. So they said that the self-defense strike took place after rockets and mortars were fired toward American troops. So they're saying we're still assessing who's operating these weapons, but we do know that there are Iranian-backed militia groups in the area. There are also Syrian military forces that operate in the area. So yes, America is helping the terrorists. As Jake Sullivan said, the Biden security advisor said that, Al-Qaeda's on our side this time in Syria. I mean, just, wow. Unbelievable. But back to the article at hand. Christians of Aleppo have fled to the Kurdish neighborhoods where the Kurds, even the elderly women, are taking up arms to defend Kurds and Christians. How long can they resist the Turkey-backed jihadists? Well, the world must support the Kurds, the only democratic forces in Syria. Well, it depends on which side of the Kurds you're talking about. Some of them are American allies too and fighting against the Assad forces. So it's hard to say who's your friend. If they're protecting the Christians, I say more power to them. And although I don't celebrate Christmas, nonetheless, the terrorists are attacking anything that symbolizes Christianity in their minds, like this Christmas tree here in Aleppo. Like it says, guys, pray for the Syrian Christians. They're the real victims here. They're being persecuted, beheaded, and everything all over again. That's what was going on for all those years in Syria. I mean, you wouldn't believe the conditions that they were kept under. And I reported on it at that time. And now they're about to go through it again. Please keep them in your prayers. And that, well, no, it's not it. Also, I want to tell you about this story that you can read about at don'tspeaknews.com. This is the first one I put up this morning. As Trump's new Middle East advisor says that starting January 20th, negotiations begin for the creation of a Palestinian state. Wow. And you know what Joel 3:2 says about dividing the land and scattering the people. God is not happy about that. But anyway, that's what I did in this article. I put biblical commentary and context after the key parts of the story that I highlighted. Donald Trump is the Antichrist, and one of his first priorities will be to begin the Abraham Accord process again and to establish a Palestinian state. The story also discusses what the Trump administration's policy will be on the hostages in Gaza and Iran. So I'll let you read that for yourselves because this report's getting too long already. And there we go. I'll put the links up like I always do. And I put some more stuff in don'tspeaknews.com that we can't speak about anywhere else and that I won't mention here because otherwise it might get me a guideline strike. So we just won't mention which ones those stories are, but you'll find them if you go to don'tspeaknews.com. Also at don'tspeaknews.com, this will be the final day, or tomorrow will be the final day for our November through December fundraiser. I want to thank everybody who has sent us funding this month, and especially for all of your prayers. We always need those. And like I say, we're right up against it here at the end of the month with utilities, news subscriptions, and all kinds of things due and payable now. So thank you to everyone who prays for us, and thank you to everyone who has contributed to the funding. We couldn't do it without you, because as you can see, we're not allowed to have any sponsors. It's just not possible for us with the content that I put up. So thank you very, very much for all that you do. And then also, if you want to subscribe or contact me, it's at the bottom of every website posting as well. And it also may pop up on you while you're reading an article, but in case it doesn't, click the subscribe, contact Johnny tab here. And then to contact me, you can have Proton Mail or Yahoo. And then if you want to subscribe, type in your email, click on the subscribe button, and you're in. Every time a new posting or video comes up, you'll be notified. And then if you want to find us on Rumble, BitChute, Telegram, click on that tab. And all the links to find us are right here. Also, guys, whenever I put up a video on Rumble, BitChute, YouTube, it doesn't matter. Whenever I put up a video, I'm always going to have a post here on the website that goes along with that video. And then all the links to everything that I talked about will be on that website posting. And that's whether I'm talking about DMSO, it's whether I'm talking about wars, rumors of wars, doesn't matter. I'm going to always have the links that I reference in that story or in that video. The links will always be over here on the website at don'tspeaknews.com. Sometimes, once in a while, I forget to put the link up. So, and then YouTube won't let me pin links anymore in the comments because they say I have to verify myself again, which I'm not going to do. So that's that. But anyway, I always put the links to every story that I do back over here, guys, on the website at don'tspeaknews.com. And that will be it for now. God bless. Take care. Johnny Storm, Don't Speak News.